Oh, look at. He's coming. Oh, look at this. What time is it?
It's 8:02.
Oh no, Andrew's messaging me here in Texas. It's 10 p.m., but we are starting in like 10 minutes. I don't know if we need another gay man's perspective though.
I don't even know why.
10
I'm all of a sudden at work. Like,
minutes.
I mean,
That's not what I'm here. No, I'm. I don't need your work brain. I need your just a young man growing up in the South brain. Like
uh
what worked for you? How were you able? Honestly, I think is. Uh,
so so I would say the more queer voices that are heard, the better.
oh, that's exactly what I was gonna say. Was is you probably found a easier found a community easier because you're gay, and
I wouldn't say easier. I beg to differ.
well,
I was queer in the '90s, boo.
well, yeah, but like once you found like the people who you could tell, like, oh, I am queer, I am gay, like, boom, like you were, you had to be with them, like, so it's like sort of like pro and
well,
con, but
not
like,
necessarily. I can't speak for everybody, but I think like everybody has their story, and when some people I don't think are accepted, and they have to
mm-hmm,
figure out how to survive on their own.
mm-hmm,
I think community is it's come a long way. Like
yeah,
we didn't have as an easier way to connect. So if you were under the age of what, 18 or 21, like you couldn't go to bars or
mm-hmm.
places.
See,
So
but so
yeah,
with these straight men though, it's that even when they turn like 21 and can go to bars, they're still not able to make connections and they have no community. Like I was listening to this one lady and she was like some percentage of men like don't have somebody they can ask to take them to the airport that isn't like their mom or dad or like direct relative and shit. And like I'm sure you have somebody you can take that's not, or yeah, that isn't your relative. I do too, but for these straight white men who are lonely.
well now we can just kind of call a Waymo, and the bot will just come pick us up because like right down the street, there's like this parking lot full of these AI bars.
Oh, I
So
hate that. That's
like it's a
gross.
fleet. It's crazy.
That's
It's wild.
gross. That's gross. That's
So
gross.
I'm just saying, like we can do a lot more things independently, and I don't know if that's part of the conversation, but I think it should be because we have accessibility that we didn't have prior. So sometimes it's going to push us to change our behaviors because things that worked out, in the past need to be updated. And I think
Mm-hmm.
people who are
Well,
currently
yeah, and I
here also
think
need to
that's what's like
do some history.
motivating. That's what's motivating this stream is that yeah, it's like obviously something's not going right. All right, we're having too many. These are not anomalies anymore. These are just like we are pumping out these men out here that are unable to connect to not only women or men. They're not able to hold relationships with any platonic or romantic. Like, let's see, let me see. Was it the amount of people having sex has dropped dramatically?
I guess. I mean, I don't know. I kind of feel like those are hard numbers to report when I think it depends on who you're asking. Um, I mean, I feel like there are a lot of young people who are definitely proving that number wrong, just depending where you're at. So if you're like in Tempe, by ASU. I don't think it's
See,
too much of a
that's
problem.
See, that's what I thought too, but no, it's for real, man. Like, for instance, my friend Brazos, he's never had a girlfriend, and he's just moved. The first time moving out of his parents' house is to moving into a condo with his brother.
Yeah, so I think, when you have the ability to explore new cultures and new spaces, I know a lot of
Mhm.
people who are really overwhelmed in
Mhm.
living in a city that's different than the one that they grew up in,
Mhm.
which again, kind of, I
See,
think
and I
about
think that's and I
older
think you're a
adults
little
do.
blinded
Like,
by your own privilege. Like you benefited by from like living
well,
in other cities and being forced out by
I also think there's very few times that we are around a lot of people that are our same age. So, like, for some
Mhm.
people, it's like high school. If it's college, if you were somebody who went to college, then again, you're surrounded by people who might be interested in the same things that you are. So, like, we don't have as many opportunities once you're an adult, unless it's
Yeah.
like at work.
Yeah.
So,
Mhm.
you have to be really purposeful in remembering that if you move to a new city, you start all over again. Like,
Yeah.
you have to be able to figure out how to connect yourself. And that's not easy to do. I also
Mhm.
say that as somebody who's super extroverted. So, it's a little bit easier for some people, it's a little harder for others. But I think there's skills that you develop along the way. Um, the more you challenge yourself to do things that you're afraid to do.
Yeah, that's what
What are we
was
watching?
I mean, that was I'm gonna put on one of the videos you recommended.
Ah,
But I was
yeah,
worried about coming here in Austin, but it was also like a challenge. It's like, okay, like, am I this awesome, lovable man that nobody can resist, or is it just because
well,
I'm here? just
well,
is it just because I'm
well,
here in Phoenix, and is it my
I don't
friends?
know.
The hour and a
I,
half. Was there another one?
yeah, there's one that's much shorter. It's the one right above it.
Okay, it's the male loneliness, the rise of male loneliness. Yeah. Yes. No, not remove from playlist. Like, start playing.
Build a website you love with Wix.
Yo, I have
For
YouTube
your words,
Pro.
create
Okay.
your brand.
There's a lot of
Okay.
discussion in the
Can you
internet
hear it?
about male loneliness and
I
how it
can.
is
Do you
at an
want
all
to
time
wait for
high,
another
with
guess, or
millions of
are we jumping
opinions
right
about
in?
it.
She's
So,
putting him
what is
down.
causing this crisis to happen? If you identify as male, this video might give you some insights. As we make our way through this video, even if you don't identify as male, consider your father, brother, partner, and friends. If you've ever wondered why they act the way they do, we hope this video in the comment section will give you some insight. So, is there a rise in male loneliness?
Uh,
And where
Wait,
is
let
it
me
coming
see if she's
from?
ready. Show chat. What are you giggling about? Why are you giggling?
Because when it's right, it's right. I think we're already starting this conversation in having women say, "Why do we even bother? They're not even patient. They don't even wait."
See, okay, and um, me and Kirsten have been seeing each other for a couple of months now, and
Um,
my knee jerk reaction to usually something she says for me to do or something is usually like not to listen to her, and then like yeah, I know. But it was new. Everything was new. It's been a while. I've been my own man for so long, not having to
yeah,
really.
I've turned into the token LGBTQIA who's like, "Tell me your feelings about this." And what are you noticing about the fact that you just stopped? Huh? Yeah.
I am putting her um, emotional needs. I think more.
Or
I'm
how
being
about
more
we
aware
let
of them.
how about we give her some autonomy, and when she comes in, she can introduce herself, and I'll introduce myself, and we can have a good conversation.
Yeah.
You know?
Okay. We can. Yeah. Yeah. Because actually, we're technically not together. So.
Yeah, but
Yeah. Who's
am I the host?
I. I think. Did you press pause?
I just did.
Yeah. Then you're the host now. All right. Sorry. All right. Pause. Kirsten, is your audio working now?
Yeah, I think so.
Okay. Sweet. All right. Kirsten, this is Fernando, fellow Texan who's moved to Phoenix and does not regret it at all.
Hi, it's nice to meet you.
It's nice to meet you too.
I haven't
Um,
told her that much about you and vice versa. So,
do you want me to get you back to be the leader?
yeah, if you could.
All right, I'm gonna leave and come back.
All right. So yes, I haven't now. All right. So should we get back to it? So your life story can connect to the Lonely Boys.
My life story. Wow, I'm on a date. This feels like an interview. Um, yeah, no, there was a time when I was 13 and I realized, um, no, I grew up in Texas, in particular El Paso. So if you've never been there, it is a fantastic city. Um,
Have you been there,
so I was kind of,
Kirsten?
No, but I have family there.
Mm.
yeah, it's a pretty amazing place. Like it is like a sister city to Juarez, Mexico,
Mhm.
Hmm.
Mhm.
and it's like um, Beto O'Rourke, I think, was interviewed recently, and he said something really powerful, which was like the streets are actually merged in together. So just naturally, based on the way it's located, and so what's really just separating these cities is just this bridge and Rio Grande, and something as simple as that makes a border. But when you had family that was able to like go to Mexico and just have family in Mexico, like you grow up really knowing who you are and the culture that you come from. So yeah, it was. I feel like I grew up in a really kind of special time where it was a lot easier to be connected to just knowing who you are. But definitely, um, you know, I was really involved in like Boy Scout stuff. So really involved in like community outreach and doing like community work. So
You know, it's funny.
um,
One of the things that they said was like a good indicator of like men or boys being able to like create community is like having Boy Scouts or having some sort of all male activity that they were able to create friendships with. And then after they create the male friendships, they're able to go on and have other relationships with girls and women. But the ones who don't have that one, they stay lonely.
well, I'm going to say we were really fortunate because we had explorers, and that was they were females who were able to do the same type of high impact campaign that we would do. So a
So
big part of the program was
progressive.
we used to have to spend like 2 weeks into the forest with
Shut the fuck
no,
up.
yeah, like no
Like
bathrooms, no
literally in
electricity.
the wilderness, just living off of
Yeah.
whatever the fuck. You're 2 weeks.
So I think I have probably about, oof,
Do you
I don't
have
want to
your
brag, but
sachet? Do you have your sachet still?
yeah, it's back at my parents' house, but
Okay, okay, okay. Just kidding.
but yeah, so I'm an Eagle Scout, so I spent a lot of time in just again being connected to community, and I think there's something to be said about being able to spend time with other young boys, but um, it was a different time, and again, having to have women also be part of that. just really promoted a lot of equality because if a boy could do it, then a girl could do it too. So even though we really segregated in being able to interact in certain times, still you could like respect the ladies for being able to like do the hard shit that we did as boys. So
Mhm.
um, yeah, a lot of respect for the women who did that. A lot of those girls went to West Point to become something big
Mm.
for themselves, and so big shout out to those girls who
What's your Eagle
kept up.
Scout group? What is it?
I come from it's called Troop Four
Troop 4 in
in El Paso,
Chuco?
Texas.
Troop 4
Yeah,
El Paso, Texas Eagle Scouts. Shout out.
wow. But yeah, so like when you get started early on and not really caring about what people think of you, because at the time it's really embarrassing to have to wear a Boy Scout uniform publicly. Um,
Pobre.
yeah, was not nice in
Yeah.
Texas.
No, I
People
bet
were,
not.
but yeah, you just learn to turn it off, and I think that was kind of the thick skin you developed because it was a lot easier for me to come out of the closet. So yeah, and it was
Build a website you love
trying to
I'm
navigate my
sorry.
life.
with Wix.
I'm sorry.
It was a journey,
For your
but moving
words,
to Phoenix,
Millions of
amazing. I felt like a big fish in a little pond, and it's taken me to do some really big things with animals and with people. So yeah, definitely weird transition from Texas to Arizona because people from Texas are super proud to be from Texas.
Mhm.
So I get that. Um, but yeah, Arizona, a completely different community, and yeah, I work with people now. So um, it'd be interesting to see what this conversation takes us.
Yeah, Kirsten works with behavioral needs children. How do you describe it, Vibs?
I work with kids with autism. I work in ABA therapy.
Ah, nice.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
That's really
She's
cool.
a
That's really, really cool.
technician.
Um, I also work in mental health. Um, I work as a licensed counselor.
Mm-hmm.
Hmm.
So, um, yeah, I just work with people in different communities, usually people of color, LGBTQIA tweens. Um, I don't know, kind of feel like a unicorn. Not a lot
You're
of
a
people who come to therapy are
unicorn.
men or Latino. So
Yeah.
kind of feel kind of feel like I get to see a lot of that. But
Wait, you're
um,
saying you're seeing a lot of male Latinos come to you because you're a male Latino? Is that what you said?
well, I think it makes it easier to just
No,
talk
no,
to
and I
somebody
agree
that
with you,
kind of
but
gets you.
yeah, is that what your experience is? Because now you've been like licensed for how long?
For a couple of years.
Couple years now,
Um,
yeah. So you got like a little finger on the pulse, no?
I guess
Hmm.
I just think that there are a lot of incentives. I think to be able to feel comfortable talking to somebody that might just get you. There are a lot of people who do this profession that I think are Caucasian and blonde hair and usually female. So it's kind of hard sometimes to know if somebody really gets maybe certain aspects of who you are. And I think when we work in this field, we got to do a lot of active listening. So to have somebody try to teach us culture, we got to do the work ourselves and keep pushing. So a little bit easier when you can jump in and just help people where they're at.
Okay. You want? I'm gonna start the video and then we'll just go from there. Okay.
Throw it at me.
All right. Play.
of lonely and addicted men. There's a lot of discussion on the internet about male loneliness and how it is at an all-time high,
I'm not
with
seeing it.
millions of opinions about it.
I think you have to.
There we go. My bad.
All right, Kirsten, you watch. Can you see it?
Yeah, I can see it.
Okay.
So, what is causing this crisis to happen?
They don't have
If you
cats.
identify as male, this video might
Okay,
give you
cool.
some insights. As we make our way through this video, even if you don't identify as male, consider your father, brother, partner, and friends. If you've ever wondered why they
So
act the
true.
way they do, we hope this video in the comment section will give you some insight. So is there a rise in male loneliness? And where is it coming from? Let's find out. Disclaimer, this is not to say that only men experience loneliness and that women do not, nor to say one's experience is worse than the other. The truth is, both men and women can struggle with loneliness, but the reasons and ways they experience it can vary. This video focuses on male loneliness, and we will cover female loneliness in another video. Also,
See,
the views expressed here are based on personal opinions
separate
and
but
experiences
important.
and may not reflect everyone's perspective. Please consider them as one viewpoint among
Oliver.
many.
Build a website you love.
Finding loneliness. What makes a person lonely? It really depends on who you ask. According to a study published in the Journal of Personality and Social Psychology, men and women define loneliness differently. For men, loneliness meant a lack of groups, whether that's a group of friends or a community to be part of. For women, loneliness was more dependent on their dyadic relationships with romantic partners. That doesn't mean that men don't feel lonely when they don't have a romantic relationship. What this tells us is that when men report loneliness, it shouldn't be disregarded as romantic loneliness, but rather a lack of people and support in numerous areas, including friendship and even family. As we make our way through this video, think of the men in your life. Where's all of this loneliness coming from? And why men? Researchers Dr. Ferdy Botha and Dr. Marley Bauer found numerous causes or contributors to male loneliness. Their article published in BMC Public Health listed increased social isolation, romantic partnership disillusion, having a long-term disability, and stronger beliefs that men should be the breadwinners of the household as features that were associated with increased loneliness. They also mentioned something that is extremely important yet increasingly rare amongst younger men: job security. Job security can give us hope for our relationships, money to support these relationships, and even a means to build new relationships. It is also an important contributor to the positive self-image of men. Without a stable job and a steady income, how could they even afford to see their friends or take someone out on dates? Without a salary and a way to contribute to society, a man calls his own value into question. Loneliness isn't gendered, but men and women do face different challenges when it comes to loneliness. Men struggle to express their loneliness. Many men would talk about the weather or admit to other struggles like addiction, rather than admitting to being lonely.
See, I think this is something my mom. Well, it's a combination of just me, like my face just does things, and my mom was always just like, "What's wrong, little boy? Tell me." And I found out that like I could get something out of it if I told her like why I was sad or something. So I was very open with my with how I was feeling when I was little. So I think,
Hmm.
what about you, Fernando? Were you open with your feelings?
Um, well, I think context has to matter to that. Um, I
Just like
think
your
that,
everyday feelings, like I'm sad, I'm happy. Like nowadays, I think like the new generation, you saw those like little squids that like are like happy squid, and then you turn it inside out, the sad squid. It's like
yeah.
they're using that as a way to tell their partner how they're feeling and stuff. They're needing some sort
Well,
of, and well,
look,
I'm just saying. Yeah.
this video just kind of touched on a lot of things, though. Like, I mean, what I heard was capitalism is causing some of this. What I'm hearing is like,
When did it say that?
I
Oh,
mean,
oh
when
no,
I'm
no,
hearing
no,
that
no. But
young men,
yeah,
when I'm
yeah, no,
hearing
I
young
hear
men
you.
can't take women out, like, okay,
Well,
well, it's not a gender thing, but that's capitalism. Like,
hmm,
you have to maybe look
yeah.
at this also a bottom top approach. Um,
Oh,
and
have you been
and then
listening to James Tellerico? Are you
I,
watching my TikToks?
I
Yeah,
I have come across him. He's on my feed. I look forward to hearing what he
yeah.
has to say.
It's
But I'm still
Stopper is
waiting for another
Bossum.
Ann
That's
Richards.
it's exactly right. It's like, and they want to know like why we're not having babies and stuff. It's like shit. Like we can't afford to take a woman out, let alone how are we gonna take
Um,
care of that kid?
well, and again, I don't. I think capitalism is now everybody's problem. Like, I
Hmm.
think now you say that, but women have to work just as hard now.
Yep.
Like to have the same ability to have their own place and to have their own goals. Like, there's
Hmm.
no that doesn't care. Like if you're a man or woman, it just
Hmm.
doesn't matter. Like
Yeah.
you still have to be able to have the same ability to provide for yourself because I think that's what capitalism says. Like,
Hmm.
and even now more so, like less excuse because you can't even get Medicare if I'm correct, uh, unless you are doing something or working. So, like again, to hear this problem, I'm kind of like, well, if men are putting pressure on themselves that it's their role to do that, then that kind of does feel like a gender role issue. Just my opinion,
Yeah.
because
Well, no, it's real. It's real. Cause yeah, like if you want to ask a woman out, like you can't just say, "Okay, let's go to Costco and get some hot dogs." Like that can't be your
I mean,
first date. You can,
you
but
can,
do
you
your
can.
success rate is Kirsten's like,
Hmm.
like if
I
that
don't
was our
know.
first date, Kirsten. I mean, never mind.
I mean, we don't have to air that out. I'm just saying
I
that,
was just
like,
gonna say somebody wore overalls on our first date.
I
I could
did.
also have,
I look very cute in overalls, so
you
nah.
you do.
I'm just saying you could have a great time at an IKEA and enjoy the
yeah, you
food court.
can.
So, like, I'm just saying, like,
But
you
yeah,
don't
yeah,
gotta.
but as far as not your very down to earth type of woman out there, it's like yeah, IKEA isn't gonna do it. I mean, Olive Garden or above, I feel like it's fine.
Oh boy.
I
Okay. So,
mean, at the
I
worst,
mean,
Applebee's or Chili's 2 for $20 or whatever if you have to. But even then, like,
I'm trying to. I think I'm understanding why some people feel more lonely than others. These choices are choices, honey. Lift the bar. If we're gonna go on a date, you know, I'm
I'm
just saying.
okay. Well, okay. Well, if you want to know, me and Kirsten went to a comedy show
Hmm.
first, and then we walked down in downtown Austin, and we walked to a pizza restaurant. After going to a bar that has a mezcal like room that's
Mm-hmm.
like on the top floor. It's kind of like a speakeasy type of feel.
Come on,
Hmm. And there was like
come on.
candles everywhere. Very romantic. Very cute.
I love that. I
Yeah.
love that.
See?
Yes, it's very pretty.
Yeah. See.
I love that.
So that's
All
my
right.
bar. That's my standard. But for
Okay.
but
Well.
we have to also we're framing it, Fernando, for the at-risk people. The at-risk youth are
Uh-huh.
yeah are 16 to what 30. I think 16 to 30. They're the ones who are ending up fucking shooting people and doing bad things. So
Okay. Well, and so if you rewind the video a little bit,
which one?
it showed this little guy playing video games there, and I think that's where people find community.
Yeah.
Um,
Hmm.
Hmm.
so um, all of those seem like little miniature risk factors there in terms of like what could be going on.
Hmm.
Uh, but there was something that the person said, which was it's something along the lines of like they would prefer to admit something else other than feeling lonely.
Hmm.
And I'm curious what you think about that.
What was it?
If you rewind it, it says that young men would prefer to admit something else other than being lonely.
In this section right here. Can you see me scrolling?
If you I can see it. Just rewind.
How far?
We'll go there.
There's good.
Try that. Or it could be there. Yeah, 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 yeah.
Having a long-term disability, and stronger beliefs that men should be the breadwinners of the household as features that were associated with increased loneliness. They also mentioned something that is extremely important yet increasingly rare amongst younger men: job security. Job security can give us hope for our relationships, money to support these relationships, and even a means to build new relationships. It is also an important contributor to the positive self image of men. Without a stable job and a steady income, how could they even afford to see their friends or take someone out on dates?
Hmm.
Without a salary and a way to contribute to
That part I really
society,
feel.
a man calls his own value into question. Loneliness
Hmm.
isn't
Okay,
gendered,
can you
but men
pause?
and women do
Hmm.
face different challenges.
Hmm.
Okay, so right there, like, I think that certain people are really fortunate enough to be able to do work that has meaning. And that brings people a lot of, I think, positive feelings. And I say that working in the animal health field.
Hmm.
Um,
Yep.
like, I've been told my whole life, you're not going to make a lot of money, but what you do is going to make a difference.
Mhm.
And it really truly does feel that way.
Hmm.
So when I think about what I'm hearing here, like, if your job is to only think of financial means, and again, I'm going to highlight capitalism here, then I think you have to
Mm.
really reevaluate your values. For me, a large part of my life was to be empathetic and to lead with that. So to help animals and vulnerable,
Mm.
you know, elements, then that's what helps bring meaning to me. I think this the sacrifice or the off to that is, yeah, I'm certainly not going to be Elon Musk here. Like, I'm not going to even get close to trying to make the type of money that I think people feel like they need to be striving for. So I don't know. I kind of feel like there's got to be a place for, I think, individuals to do both things, especially like not having to pigeon your whole self into
Well,
feeling like you have to make money. Like,
well, I think more it's more. Well, you have to make money just to live, but if you can find like community in what you're doing, then all the better. Um, and I think that is like something that like these men are lacking
well,
is
I
like
want to
what
let me. Sorry to interrupt.
what
I just want to say stuff
you're
like
not, but what
Andrew Yang, for example. You know what I mean? He's talking
hmm
about you. What is it? Unite basic income.
it was
Was it
about a
UBI?
hmm.
Am I saying that right?
What are you trying to say?
UBI is
Oh,
it?
okay,
It's
UBI. Okay, yeah.
national. What is it? Basic income.
Okay.
Um, okay. Well, the fact is like it's really hard to find jobs for a lot of young
Oh yeah,
people right
yeah,
now.
yeah. Like right now is it's terrible. It's like we have more unemployed than we do jobs available.
Right. So, I mean, thinking about having to put more pressure on yourself to, I
Hmm.
think, adapt to a capitalist system. I mean, it's going to make you sad and depressed, and I think it's easy to self isolate. And I'm just saying this as an opinion.
Yeah. No,
Like,
no, it's true.
I
Like
just, I just think when I don't feel good about the fact that I can't, pay my electricity or I can't be able to like
or
buy
just like if you
groceries.
actually do have friends, they're like, "Oh yeah, we're going to the bar this weekend." It's like, "Oh, I can't go because I have no money." And so you lose those opportunities, and then you feel like you're losing those friends, and so you don't reach out to them anymore, and then it's a really dark spiral. Like you'll just sit there in your bed, and you're like, okay, like I have no money, I can't go out and see my friends, I can't turn on my electricity, I don't have any cat food. It's like, oh, like you, it it can be very very hard
Which, to
on.
do a plug for therapy, because
Okay.
like all of those things you just said right there are all
Yeah.
great things to talk about with your therapist. You know what I mean? Like,
This
I, I,
and this is the fucking problem. I'm not trying to have a therapist. I'm just talking to my friends,
uh-huh.
and and now he's like, I have to charge you $125. It's like,
Oh wow,
bitch.
you've got some pretty crappy friends.
Ah, no. But no, no, exactly. And but men, they can't afford a therapist. They can't. They don't have friends who can open up, who they can open up to about this, and then we
Well,
have this
you know,
cycle
I
of
wanna push back a little. I feel
we
like I've
haven't
worked in
gotten back
community
we
mental health.
haven't gotten. Oh wait, what are you saying about free mental health? Where?
No, I said I've worked in community mental health.
Oh, see,
And
okay,
what
and
that
you also, but okay, I had to
you
tell
have
my
to
Arizona friends this too. You benefit from Arizona being a very progressive state in every like mental health, physical health, and just like yeah, rights in general. Like moving away from, you feel it every time you come back to Texas, and like
oh, I sure do.
yeah, exactly. And I tell Kirsten all the time, I'm just like, oh my God, like Arizona, it would never happen. Like she would feel so much more empowered as a
It's
mom in fucking Arizona than here. It's like, oh,
it's pretty different.
mm-hmm,
Um, but I'm gonna say and to like make a fight out for I think nonprofit groups like that are probably getting defunded as we speak. So these are
mm-hmm.
things too that are like resources. So when I think about what you said of who can afford this, well, yeah, you have to like fund it. You have to like be aware of
Hmm.
what you're signing up for in your vote or who you align yourself with, and to just say it's a mental health
That part,
issue, you got to
that
be
part.
willing to really understand, what the mental health system looks like,
Mm-hmm,
and
Hmm.
that's cool. I want you to know more about it. I want there to be
mm-hmm,
full transparency, because the less scary it is, then the more likely you're going to be able to say, yeah,
mm-hmm,
I'm cool. I want to ask for help. And you know, I think again we don't really have I think a lot of great spokespeople when it comes to that.
mm-hmm,
Um, but to a certain degree, I
mm-hmm.
think somebody has to make a choice. Like,
Yes,
do I feel sick and tired of feeling sick and tired? So
that's
if
huge.
loneliness is too much, how do I know if I'm self isolating? Like,
Mm-hmm.
that's hard to say because in
Hmm.
your mind, it's just going to feel like a Tuesday.
Yeah. And then if
So
you have nobody to telling you these things, and if you're not able to come to these real questions yourself, you're just like sitting in quicksand. Um,
Hmm.
all right, I'm gonna go back to where we were, and let's try to go. If you wanna stop
Build a
and talk
website you
about
love
something,
with
just give a
Wix.
I'll let
shout
you know.
out. Yeah.
For your words,
In these films are deeply lonely men who try to embrace their emotions but can only share these feelings with manufactured love interests. To some men, that might sound extremely familiar. Even before the pandemic trapped everyone indoors, the computer was a lot of men's only hope for connection. Porn replaced sex, and video games replaced real human interaction. With
Hmm.
movies and TV shows centering around people who long for true interaction, that pain seemed to mean something. Now, men see these romanticized versions of loneliness not only as something they relate to, but as something they can use. Sometimes this turns into motivation, fuel for the gym, or other methods of self improvement. For other men, loneliness only makes them feel cast out and rejected, not
Mm.
only by potential romantic partners, but by society as a
Slow,
whole.
Daniel.
Technology. We all want different things in life, but technology like social media can project an ideal of success that we all feel like we should meet. For many men, part of being successful is having someone they adore by their side. But beyond that, what do men want out of relationships, and how does technology affect that? The relationship between men and women has changed. Men feel that DMs and Tinder aren't just the easiest way to try to win the affection of women, but also the only way. Men struggle to meet and court women because the channels to do so are extremely competitive. The unfortunate truth is that the best times to meet women and form relationships are when you're young, in high school or university. Past that point, it becomes more difficult. Male loneliness is on the rise because outside of high school and university, and the experiences associated with those
Mm-hmm.
periods of life, we have to rely on technology to meet people. This creates the reality we find ourselves in. Men competing with other men in a competition that women don't even realize they're judging. So, as our social spaces continue to be replaced with online convenience, men and
Mm.
women will only become more lonely. The sense of competition between men is on a global scale thanks to social media. A 2024 study found that it affects men differently than women. The researchers found that problematic Instagram use is directly associated with general anxiety, social anxiety, and loneliness. For men, social media doesn't remind you that you should be competing. For those who have struggled to maintain friendships, relationships, or close ties with family, it can feel like social media is yelling, "You're losing," every time you log on.
Aw.
Can you
Loneliness is a
pause?
trap.
Okay.
It's on Poshmark here, and it's half off.
So
Find the best deals
I
today.
just something
Is it even
I feel like I heard right there is like what matters is this weird hierarchy of like who is going to lead the pack. Like it feels very first, second, third. Um, like who do we look up to? And when I think about those faces, like and just reflecting on like Instagram, and who gets to decide this
Well,
thing?
keeping up with the Joneses is like, yeah, it's like, oh, look at, like, I have a house and a car, and like, what are you doing? No, you're playing video games. It's like, wow, okay.
Well, I mean, yeah, that's kind of it too. But I also think about it in like the way you look, like and how you dress and how you act and how that's reflected in you having to have a two-story house and a car. And I mean, how important is it to drive a truck in Texas? I'm just throwing that out there. Like, I mean, those things seemingly matter. And I just want to highlight how it shouldn't matter. Like, the way
Mhm.
that you choose to live your life shouldn't need to be validated by strangers, you
Yep.
know?
Yeah, yeah,
So,
definitely. That's the downside of social media for sure. But I would just push back and say that if you are looking for a serious partner and want a serious life with them, then you should be working on your life to, you know, be to be something they want to be part of, you know. And I guess does that adds to the pressure of, being a man and, yeah, having
you
the
know,
cars and stuff like that. But I think for me, it's more just like, okay, like I want to be a good partner, and I want to have yeah, just a life that's worth my partner being a part of. So.
I just think that social media is now something that we now compare ourselves to with other people. That
Hmm.
so like I don't know, and maybe this is like a generational difference, but me kind of being an older millennial, I kind of had the I think now I could say opportunity, dare I say privilege, of being able to like have some pretty amazing experiences and not have it documented because I was actually in the moment. And like
Mhm.
when you're able to feel it and you're there and you don't need it to be like what is that saying? If you didn't take a picture then you didn't do it, or if
Yeah,
there's
it
no
never
proof then you
happened.
didn't do
Yeah,
it.
yeah.
Oh yeah.
No
And
picker never
like
happened.
sorry, I think that goes right in line with that whole validation part.
Hmm.
Like
Yeah.
I think when you know who you are and you know what you've seen and what you've done, there's no need to be I think inauthentic in what you say.
Yeah.
Because what you're doing is you're spouting facts. You're spouting your experience and like how you experience it, which I think is so much more interesting in trying to make deep connection than having to be like, hey, yeah, like I could talk about this picture.
Hmm.
Because again, what do I need to sell to you to form like a really good relationship or like a really good friendship? And I think it shouldn't be like what I can do for you, but it should be more about how you treat me as a person. So again, kind of like navigating digital spaces, it's kind of hard to decide do you take a chance and really trust if the other person is a good person, which I think takes a while to get to know. But um, sorry, yeah, Gordon, I'm getting off my soapbox there, but I think it's crappy when we think we have to have to try to I don't know fit in with this weird like I
Yeah,
have to
it's
be like the queen
definitely.
bee.
I hear
You know
you,
what I mean?
but
Well,
we also
Mean
need
Girls is a
them.
movie.
Yes, yes, yes. I get it. But we want them to be um, um, approachable men. We want them to be
Yeah, but if you want to do that, you can't be bully about it. You know
yeah.
what I
We
mean? Like we
yeah,
can't
Hmm.
be telling
exactly.
people, "Hey, you're a sigma male," or "You're a beta male,"
Hmm.
or "You're a cook." Like
Mhm.
that's
No,
me
no.
telling you that I put value on masculinity and that you deserve to be on the lower part. And so
So
just throw the system away.
so after this video, I want to watch this other video, and like it's a data scientist and then this lady in psychology who turned into like a dating specialist, and they just break down a lot more of the numbers behind kind of all of this. So this is more
Okay,
kind of like anecdotal, but
yeah, go for it.
okay, so let's go.
Even okay for men to be lonely? Of course it is.
But this does, I feel like, represent a pretty good like general idea of what man feels until they kind of figure it out,
But some men don't realize that. A lot of
and
men
they're not
struggle to
figuring it
admit
out.
that they're lonely. For
See,
some men, loneliness and the depression that often accompanies it are flaws in their masculinity. Part of the masculine image is being a valuable partner or a sought after individual.
see, just
If
saying.
you aren't achieving that, it can feel like you're failing or missing out on a vital part of life. This can harm your mental health, pushing you further out towards the fringes of society if you fall down the wrong rabbit holes. Communities like the incel community have formed around this exact process. Unfortunately,
Hmm.
despite being a community based on the issue of male loneliness, the incel community provides nothing to heal male loneliness.
Right.
By becoming resentful of society and feeling
What?
cheated by your circumstances, your
Hmm.
loneliness can become exacerbated by these negative feelings and emotions, rather than alleviating them. In
I
other
think it's
words,
missing saying
blaming
women. That incels feel strongly against women.
Yeah, I was gonna say.
That
I was
part is
like, yeah,
missing.
that's what they're like. No, it's not your fault. It's the women's fault. It's like, okay,
Yeah,
sure.
because yeah, I'm not going to be gaslit into thinking,
Yeah.
oh no, no, it's for whatever reason. Yeah, I'm scared of women. Like, yeah, sorry. Go ahead.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. No,
others
I heard it too. That's why I giggled.
and becoming resentful will only make things worse. How it affects everyone. If you aren't a man, you might have wondered how all this affects you. Every man has a woman in his life, and every woman has a man in his life. The effects of male loneliness are widespread and can affect anyone. This loneliness can alter social dynamics, making community interactions less vibrant and supportive, which impacts women navigating these shared spaces. Additionally, men's loneliness can contribute to mental health issues, adding emotional burdens on women who provide support. Men don't need women to solve the loneliness issue because it isn't women's fault.
Wait, is
But
he
if you do want to help,
wait,
reach out to your
how did we
father,
get here?
your brothers, or the other men in your life that you care about. Defeating loneliness. Find your motivation for socializing again. If you're disheartened by romance and find that romantic love doesn't motivate you, try making friends first. It's important that you make friends that are healthy for you. Joining a community like the incel community won't help. If you feel lonely, try to re-affiliate yourself with people. Reach out to old friends or try joining new communities. If you know of a man who's lonely, you can help too. You can have a loneliness intervention, which sounds intimidating but can really just be casually inviting your friend, dad, or brother out and having a heart-to-heart. Unfortunately, men can get in their own way when it comes to overcoming their loneliness. It can be difficult for men to break their masculine persona and be open about their loneliness. If you're a man who craves a romantic relationship, low self-esteem can be critical in your ability to form the relationship you want. If there is something that you're unsatisfied with in your life, the best thing you can do is work on improving yourself.
Mm,
Sometimes loneliness feels like something out of your control. If you suffer from mental illness like depression or anxiety, it can seem impossible to escape loneliness. Sometimes it just takes that first step. If finding new friends or asking someone out seems like a bit too much for you right now, start small and work your way up. If mental illness is getting in your way, Take one thing at a time and seek help and advice from a professional. If you found this video informative, remember to leave a like and subscribe to Psych to Go.
That last part kind of seems silly, and I didn't agree with a lot of it. But my friend Mike is actually been struggling with that, and he for some reason, well, he was drunk and he was watching her like special on her Hurricane Katrina. And he's like, "Can we get together?" Then this he lives in Phoenix, and it's a group chat with people in Phoenix. He's like, "Can we get together and do a fish boil or a crab boil, whatever they what do they call them, Kirsten here?"
Crawfish?
Yeah, the
Crawfish boil?
crawfish boil. Yeah, she's like, "Can we do that?" I was like, "You guys are not. You're in a fucking desert. Like, what the fuck?" But it's really just he's missing people. He's missing us. He doesn't. He's feeling lost and doesn't have feeling disconnected from his community. So,
Hmm.
Build a
so
website you
this
love
guy,
Sounds
with Wix.
sounds like he needs to talk to somebody. By the way,
For your words,
yes, and
Absolutely shocking.
I told my friend that he should take him to church, and apparently he's been going to church with him, so it's good signs.
I see.
Um, I don't.
Isn't that kind of what is kind of uh, is kind of what's happening right now? I think in just thinking about how the church is kind of taking a lot of lonely men.
Yeah,
And do you think that's kind of why there's like a big shift in? Um, I think there was a study or some poll about what Gen Z women are looking for in terms of their goals compared to what young men are looking for.
yes, and I was like, yo, like who the fuck reprogrammed these dudes? Like what? I could look for that real quick. Was it? Would you say they are Gen Z? See,
I'm gonna
women
say I
compared
don't exactly remember.
to
Um,
men.
I just think it's interesting because when I think about certain elements of religiousness, I just think that the
Oh yeah,
patriarchy is
okay,
pretty
here it
thick.
is. Gen Z's radical role reversal, and to say, okay, so men, and let's be honest, we're talking about like Trump supporters and like the right for the most part. Okay, let's it's not generalize it like that, but anyways, men Trump supporters prioritize having children, financial independence, and being married higher than emotional stability. Women Harris voters emphasize fulfilling career, having money to do things you want, and emotional stability over marriage and children.
Hmm.
The men Harris voters prioritize fulfilling job and career and having money
Well,
to do what they want and marriage and
Jim,
children at 45%.
yeah, I want to jump in.
What?
What line of work do you think most of these women are getting degrees in?
Who the women Harris voters?
Well, just in
Healthcare.
general.
Well, healthcare is like the only stable job community right now. What you
Is that
say?
all?
Yeah. Well, and legal. Yeah, legal. In Arizona, anyways, legal. Like,
I
there's more female attorneys than male
I think
attorneys.
that we got to look outward in being like teachers. I think we need to look
Teachers.
outward and
Hmm.
think about what again what women's work, quote unquote. I say that quote unquote, putting on feminist lens.
Hmm.
That yeah, like these are the jobs that people are getting further educated in, and like again, when I think about how quickly things are changing in our world, um, you're going to see, I think, a lot more educated women who are making big decisions, which is, I think, a great thing, um, especially because a lot of the decisions that are being made currently, don't necessarily benefit them or people of color or other communities. So to have some educated individuals is a good thing, rather than the anti-intellectualism movement we're in currently, where we get to just make up facts. So, like, just keeping it real, I just think, yeah, we're going to see a big shift in who makes money. And again, that's, I think, really impacting gender roles. So if this country is very patriarchal, which, I
So
mean,
this video goes kind of, this is like a year old video, I think. Or no, 5 months ago actually. Wow. Okay. So 5 months ago, they probably recorded it a year ago. But I think there was some controversy because the dude kind of came off really dickish, and she didn't really push back. But it kind of, this goes towards just what's going on with the young men, and what we're seeing when they're young, and the effects now where we're having less sex, less marriage rates, less more divorce, and more issues with men going out and doing terrible things. So, play.
This is a crisis and young men are struggling. So I sat down with two leading voices on societal issues to discuss the rise of millions of lonely, addicted men. And the most important question is, how do we fix this? So let's start with this graph. It shows that young women are now out-earning young men.
It is true. We have given women so many tools to achieve, but now boys are being left behind.
And that the number of males aged 16 to 24 who are not in education or employment has increased by a staggering 40%.
Yeah.
And the data I've seen is that when the woman in the relationship starts making more money, they become twice as likely to get divorced.
Because traditionally women seek partners who have more economic or social status than they do, and emotional intelligence is the new currency in dating. But these guys were raised not to be emotionally intelligent, but to be a provider.
That a lack of male involvement in kids' lives is a big factor leading to this. And once they lose a male role model, they become much more likely to engage in criminal activity.
And so we are just creating a lot of these angry young single men who are saying, well, this is rigged against me.
We actually asked some of our audience to write in, and this guy, Jeffrey, wrote in and said, my entire life, I have never felt like I was good enough. Like I could never earn my place in society.
It's devastating. But something that's controversial, I've gotten pushback on. I think the secret
well,
weapon.
yeah,
for men
I mean,
is
if
no
your dad
leverage.
is the person that's telling you that, or your grandpa, like,
So one thing though I want to clarify is like there is two things going on here. Is like yes, there is like society, and like if for me as a Latino man growing up in Arizona, same with you, Fernando, a Latino man growing up in Arizona or in the South, like we had our own difficulties growing up, because we're Latino. So yes, there are those societal like problems that they contribute to it, but there is something internally going on with men that these young boys aren't getting addressed, and it kind of goes into like that. But like it's not all just society is all against men, like the incels think. Definitely. And I think that's kind of
I
what
would agree.
that's what rubs me the wrong way with this guy. He's just like, oh no, this happened to you, so you're gonna turn out like this. I'm like, oh, and it's like, and it's because of your mom. I was like, what the fuck? No. All right.
I want to hear a woman's perspective on it.
Honestly, what I would do is
This has always blown my mind. This show is better for you every single
get some
week.
water.
We'll listen to your feedback, we'll find the guests that you want me to speak to, and we'll continue to do what we do. Thank you so much. Lost Boys. In March 2025, the Centre of Social Justice released this report, which has sent a couple of shockwaves across the UK, especially across the media. And just to give you a little bit of a sort of preface and some context on what this report says, at the start of the report, Andy Cook, who's the CEO of the report, says, we listen to those working on the front line, the teachers, the youth workers, the charities, and the parents who day in, day out see the struggles of young people. And in recent years, they've been telling us the same thing. something is going on with our boys. And because of this, they wrote this report called The Lost Boys, which looks at all of the different facets of why young men are struggling. And in this report, they say boys are struggling in education. They're more likely to take their own lives. They're finding it more difficult to find stable work. And far too often, they're caught in crime. The numbers don't lie. Something has shifted, and we cannot ignore it any longer. It's not just about Andrew Tate or online influencers. These are symptoms, not the cause. The deeper truth is that too many boys are growing up without the guidance, discipline, and purpose they need to survive. And there's some frankly horrific graphs, which actually sent the CEO of my company, a lady called Georgie, into quite an emotional state. She texted me and told me she was crying looking at some of these graphs, which we'll talk about today. But this is a subject that I know both of you.
Time out. He has a really nice haircut. Like, even though his like beard doesn't connect, like he makes it all work.
Know very, very well. So I'm keen to get into exactly why this is happening and what we can do about it. But to preface this discussion, to understand where you both come from and the perspective you have, Logan, who are you?
Yeah.
And what do you do?
I'm a behavioral scientist turned dating coach. So that means that I take all
Behavioral
of the
science
lessons
turns
from the field of
dating
behavioral
coach.
science, how we make decisions, and then I apply them to the field of relationship science, which is how love works. And so I'm really passionate about this topic because for a long time, I've found that wherever I go, people say, oh, I know all these great single women. Do you know any great single guys? And I just thought, oh, okay, maybe that's always been happening. But when I actually dug into the data, I saw that we are truly in a dating crisis right now. And there is a huge mating gap between the type of men that women are looking for and the type of men that are available. This is a critical conversation around truly the future of humanity because marriage rates are down. That means birth rates are down. And so this conversation is extremely important.
And what sort of reference points do you draw upon? Because you've got some sort of unique access to data, right?
Right. So I work at Hinge for the last 5 years. And so I have access to tons of data there around how daters are dating now, how daters are dating differently, what sets successful daters apart. And then I also have conducted my own research for this conversation. So I sent out a survey to
Babe, is that
thousands
what
of
we
my
used?
newsletter subscribers, and people were
No.
very
What did
excited
we
to talk about
use?
this. And I've conducted a
Duet.
lot of
Duet?
new research that I'll be sharing for the first
Ah,
time on this topic.
those ads
So
work.
I make
Damn.
my living looking at data and trying to come up with
Yeah, they
insights.
pop up
I
every day.
spend most of
Yeah,
my
for real.
career looking at data to try and add shareholder value, and then I have the luxury now of focusing on things I'm really interested in. And I just stumbled upon data about that reflects that the cohort that has ascended fastest globally is women, and this is a wonderful thing and a huge collective victory. And the group that has fallen furthest fastest is men in Western markets.
Mm-hmm.
And the data was just so overwhelming. And also, I was close to being one of these men. I didn't have a lot
Dang.
of economic or romantic prospects when I was
I
a young
wonder
man,
why.
but
Oh, that
there
was
were
mean. I'm sorry.
programs and an environment where I could be successful. And I worry that some of the temptations of technology, the economic trends, had they been where they are now then, I could have very easily ended up a statistic. So I just sort of relate to these problems.
I'm keen to understand from your perspectives what you think like the first domino that falls in a young man's life or a young boy's life that causes the outcomes we're talking about today. Like where is the first place to start?
So the research I've looked at, and Richard Reeves from the American Institute of Boys and Men has done good research here, the point of failure, if you reverse engineered issues to, is when a boy loses a male role model. And that is, in the US, we have the second most single family parent homes behind Sweden. And what's interesting is that in single parent homes, girls actually have similar outcomes, similar rates of high school attendance, income, rates of self-harm. Boys, once they lose a male role model, become much more likely to be incarcerated, engage in criminal activity, harm themselves. It ends up that while being physically stronger, boys.
See, and this is where I told Kirsten, I was like, I'm the fucking statistic. Because, like, as soon as my dad left, I started selling weed. And, like, I didn't really get in trouble with the law until I was, like, 22, 23 or something like that. But, I mean, I'm the uh, Latino boy who lost his father when he was young and grew up with a single mom, and I got arrested. So I got my DUI when I was like 22. So see, yeah, that's what happened to me. Fernando, did you? Well, Fernando, you're kind of a special case. Like,
Oh,
well, yeah, your dad didn't lose you. Well, yeah, I don't know if you want to touch on that, on your
I mean,
background.
I I think I am the product of a large Latino family.
Mm-hmm.
So like I had a lot of uncles around me. And yeah, I think I was surrounded by um just people who were again, I think trying their best. So um yeah, I'm gonna say I felt like Boy Scouts, Cub Scouts, like that was also a really great time to seek role models. Because you got to meet people that were different than you, like different race or they believed in a different religion.
Mm-hmm.
So it was really nice. I mean, I learned a lot about different like communities, like the Jewish community
So
there.
when you had like different communities to rely on once you're
Well, to
like,
learn about,
yeah,
and that's what kind of makes things a little bit more flavorful.
yeah.
So
Mm-hmm.
yeah, I think also what's really important about role models is, or just sometimes it's hard to find them, but when you do, they don't necessarily need to know that they're your role
Mm-hmm.
models. It just feels good to know that you can use somebody as like the North Star if you need help trying to figure out how to get yourself out of hard problems
Yeah.
or hard situations.
Kirsten, anything?
Yeah,
What's that?
I didn't say anything.
Okay.
Kids are emotionally and mentally much weaker. So the loss of a male role model is, I would argue, kind of the first point of failure that predicts that a boy is going to struggle. And that has impacts on family court, economic policy, and just general zeitgeist in our society where men need to step up. If we want better men, we need to be better men. We need to step into that void.
Another one that Richard Reeves talks about is that there's not enough men in the education system. So I
100%.
believe when Tim Waltz was a teacher, one out of three teachers in his school was a man, but now it's like 24%.
Yeah.
And so where do kids spend most of their time? In school. And who's teaching them? Mostly not men.
And you think, well, women can be fantastic teachers, and it's
Right.
true. But after school programs, not as many coaches that typically are male, not as much compensation, so they don't get rewarded for being coaches. And if you
Ooh.
just think about it logically, who does a
And
teacher
I
champion?
see. I have another friend too, who's struggling. He's in Minnesota, and he's struggling to find community. And he lives with two of his friends, but they've grown apart and stuff. But similar issues with my friend in Phoenix. He both they both drink, and kind of the drinking has taken over their life, besides the community. But I told my friend in Minnesota, like, he just loves sports. I was like, bro, just become a coach somewhere. Like, go coach somewhere. I think you would really find fulfillment being a coach. Coaching basketball or football. And he's like, you know what? I've had multiple people tell me to do that. And actually, Newsom in California has started an initiative. I mean, I don't know if he put any funding behind it, but he's just called on just men in. He's like, I want 10,000 men to, promise to mentor or coach young men in California to, help fulfill that gap, you know?
Mm,
Okay, anyways.
A teacher champion,
I
someone who
mean,
reminds them
I
of
hope these
themselves when
men are
they were a
saved.
kid.
What?
yeah,
I mean, I
What?
yeah.
hope these men are saved at this point. Like, uh, that's kind of like, I you don't know what you're really signing up for now these days. So
You
I think
know,
there's a lot of fear about being able to show up and wonder if you're going to be like part of this group's target audience.
yeah, I know that's a struggle too. Um,
Especially in Arizona, everything feels so 50-50 that like I don't know, being a mentor, here for it. But sometimes I think we need to figure out are certain men qualified and what does
Yeah.
that look like? Because you know, I know teachers have to go through a rigorous process to be able to do what they do, and there's oversight.
mm,
So we got to make sure that these people are also qualified, and just throwing that out there.
no, you are right because I have my friend who his little brothers are from Mexico and they'll come up here for brothers and cousins from Mexico will come up here for to Phoenix
Hmm.
for a basketball or soccer camp. And one day, one of his cousins came home and was like, starving and asked for like a second plate of food, like really quick. And she asked him like, "Oh, why are you so hungry?" And she goes, "Oh, the coach didn't let me eat my lunch at the camp, uh, uh, because he thought that he thought that I knew how to speak English and I was refusing to speak English, but he really doesn't. He's from Mexico. He only knows Spanish. He's a little kid too. I think he said he's like 10 years old, and so yeah, my friend Sandra called and got that guy fired. So
Yeah.
all right, I've asserted.
So, and also just look at there's
My
incredible
friend
bias,
Taylor
I would
and
argue,
Mike, I
against
don't think
males
they
in
would do
school.
that.
A boy is twice as likely to be suspended on a behavior adjusted basis, twice as likely to be suspended for the exact same infraction as a girl, 5 times as likely if it's a black boy. And once you're suspended twice, it probably means you're not going to college. In addition, look at the behaviors we promote in school. Sit still, be a pleaser, be organized, raise your hand. You basically just described a girl. And so, and also, quite frankly, a lot of the jobs that require tertiary education attainment, there's more women now in law school
Uh,
and medical
I
school.
think
And
I
quite
could
frankly, good for
say he
them.
wasn't just describing a girl. I would
Yeah.
say he's describing somebody who's neurotypical
Yep.
more
I was.
than like.
Go ahead,
like,
Kirsten.
No, go ahead. I agreed. I was letting him. I wanted to say
yeah,
Neurotypical.
the same thing.
But isn't that like every child is neurotypical?
No.
absolutely not.
Yeah.
I don't know.
And by the way,
I'm
I think that's
neurotypical.
how like it's hard for certain people to be like, "Oh my gosh, I think I am neurotypical or neurodiverse," and like, or just having to explore those behaviors. Like, you gotta take, yeah, no, like what
You
he's
know,
describing feels like the way that traditional teachers may have been, but yeah, we can do better.
yes,
Hmm.
we definitely can. But you know what's seriously unfucking fortunate? And I should fuck tomorrow. I'll talk about it more on stream. I have a coworker here in Texas, and the way Texas funds their schools, um, they um, they have had to take away funding for all like basically all special needs kids, and her one of her kids has like a was has a brain damage from when he was little, and so he doesn't get any special help anymore. Doesn't have aides and doesn't have special classes. They took it all away because of
Yep.
this funding deficit. So, fortunately, in Arizona, they made it a point to fund those types of things still. Am I right, Fernando?
Well, we're kind of
Uh,
going through our own element here with ESAs. So
Yes, okay.
Um,
Oh my God, they bought lingerie.
yeah. So that I could go on and on about
Yeah.
that. So
But you still
that'll be
have,
another.
but like they went from having special needs classes to like having none. Like you're not. They didn't do that to Phoenix schools, right? Did they?
I mean, I kind of feel like if were you living here for the Red Movement, where educators were protesting in the streets for their pay?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Like I had like a
Red
bunch.
for Ed.
Yeah, yeah. My favorite teacher was like, "Yeah, I'm not gonna be here until they pay me, homie." So see you, Mr. Huffman. Shout out.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So now that I think Arizona is made the way for charter schools.
Mhm.
Um, yeah, I think it's kind of hard to comment on that because yeah, these programs are being funded, these schools are being funded, but they don't necessarily have the same oversight.
Uh,
So I couldn't tell you. I
okay.
mean, a charter school has the ability to decide who gets admission.
Mhm.
So it's a good question. I
Yeah.
also would be
Well.
really curious what like homeschool numbers are too
Yeah.
here in the states.
Well, what I told my friend Justin, I was like, you guys are a little bit, you're protected because you have yeah, a Democrat governor and a Democrat led like house.
Mhm.
So there's only one Republican held branch of the government, and they don't yeah, they don't have enough sway to get anything passed. So
Yeah, it's kind of a hot mess here too.
yeah, no,
We
it's
have our
not.
problems.
It's a hot mess everywhere, but not as bad as here. It's a dumpster fire in Texas. I'm not gonna lie.
They're just better at that. They're better students. They deserve to make more money. They deserve it. But the reality is, it has huge ramifications when we no longer have wood, auto, or metal shop. They've gone away.
Right.
So those used to be a pass to do some middle class jobs. They've been replaced by computer science. And so, what are the paths for the 2/3 of males that aren't going to end up with a traditional liberal arts college degree?
Right. And just to add a few more stats to that, so we know that 70% of valedictorians in the US are female, and women are much more likely to be in the top 10% of their class. But then on the SAT, men and women or young men and women earn the same scores. So there's definitely something happening in schools that is prioritizing the female experience or that women are better at that. We definitely want to celebrate the success of women. I think the changes that have happened over the last 50 years are incredible. And I feel like I'm a beneficiary of that. And so is my daughter. If you look at all of the books that my daughter was given when she was born, they're about great women in history. You can be anything. Dream big, little one. And so I feel like we have given women so many tools to achieve. And in many ways, those have been manifested. But now boys are being left behind. And so this isn't a zero sum game. I was nervous about coming on here because I thought people would say, she's a male apologist. She
Hmm.
doesn't see how much women.
What'd you say?
Oh, nothing. Sorry, I'm
Uh,
whispering to myself.
okay, no worries. No, but I definitely feel what she's saying, and but I think what young men and boys need to be taught is like it is okay for a woman or a girl to throw farther than you or be smarter than you and stuff. That's all right. You just have to go at your own pace and not be emasculated.
Women are still struggling. I think everyone is struggling. I think life is hard.
Yeah.
But what's happening right now is we need to have empathy for young men and we need to bring them up because this isn't just a problem about young men. And patriarchy doesn't just hurt women. A lot of people think about the patriarchy as something that prizes men and hurts women. But when there's a very narrow definition of men, everyone is hurt by that. And that's all the research that I've done is over and over seeing women feel like they are not enough good men to date, and men feel like they're being held to a ridiculous standard of holding both sides of the coin, being feminine and masculine.
it turns out, as you were speaking, I was looking at the stats around fatherless homes, and it turns out that there has been a significant increase in the amount of young boys being raised without a father present. About 25% live without a biological step or adoptive father, according to the National Fatherhood Initiative. In the US has the world's highest rate of children living in a single parent household, and 92% of the time that's with the mother alone. And in 1968, only 11% of children lived with only their mother, compared to 21% in 2020. So that's doubled in the last 50 odd years, which is pretty staggering. And then obviously the consequence of that, as Scott described, is that individuals from father absent homes were 300% more likely to carry drugs, to carry guns, to deal drugs,
Me?
And there's this huge plethora of mental health consequences if you don't have a father in the home. I mean, what do we do about that? And like, where are the fathers?
Yeah.
Where are they going?
Where are they going? What the fuck kind of question is that? They're going off being worthless men. Stupid ass. But yeah, no, I had to start selling weed to fucking make enough money to just live, or at one point help my mom. But yeah, that's what had to me, and that's what the only option is to a lot of young men and boys. Shit,
Well,
yeah, I was a boy. I was 17 years old, whatever.
it's complicated. There's male abandonment. There's just no getting around it. But also going back to family court,
you see how
sometimes there,
you see how hesitant he was? I was like, yo, why you gotta like stutter when you say it? Fucking say it with your whole ass chest, man. It's like, yeah, we got a fucking problem. we male men are abandoning their kids. The fuck?
Yeah, you got to do better. You got to be
Yeah.
better.
You see how his posture changed too? He's like, he doesn't like talking about these stats. Like, oh man, yeah. I was like, all men in role model positions, mentor positions, teaching positions, and men who have children. Take care of your children. Show up. Be present when show up as well.
the courts in the financial, our economy make it difficult for a man to stay involved in the kids' lives. And
Oh, shut
also,
the fuck up.
um, family court's getting better at saying, all right, the kids. I mean, just a personal anecdote. I have a friend who recently has gone through divorce, two daughters, very much wants to be involved in their lives. They're 13 and 15-year-old girls, and quite frankly, dad's there on the weekends, and they got their own thing going on, and they don't necessarily make dad a priority. And
Oh,
dad's not
brother.
around for what I call the garbage time, and that is what I found with my boys is the moments of serendipity and connection happen randomly when you're taking them to school, when you're out in the back, jumping around or playing whatever it is. These
Yes, 100%. That is true, and we should be pushing that narrative for men. Like, we want you there in the household, being there to experience those moments, because those are moments that will keep you, going and stuff. But if you are the step, if you are separated, if you aren't together with with your the baby mama or baby daddy or whatever, like, still, like, okay, they have something going on that we can be part of what they're doing. Like, they wanna go into the mall with their friends or something. It's like, okay, go to the movies, and then they can go hang out with the mall with their friends afterwards. Something my friend Mike, and that's kind of what I was brought it up. Why I brought up when he said, "Oh, we want to do a crawfish boil." So I was like, "Oh, my my." We don't like crawfish in Phoenix. Like, all my friends were born and raised in Phoenix. Like, they don't do crawfish. It's like, you want to go to brunch? You want to go to Lolo's Chicken and Waffles, or what's that brunch spot? Brunch bitch, whatever.
Yeah,
Uh,
that's kind of wild history, by the way, that place.
Yeah, yeah. Didn't it close for a minute?
Because the person was like laundering money. It was
Yeah.
wild.
Yeah, but no, like, yeah, like, if you want to go do something with friends, like, do something that they like, don't center it on you, because you need fulfillment. You know,
Yeah, it's just not about you, Brittany.
yeah,
Like,
exactly. See, this was my problem with this guy. He's too much. Too much of a, oh, poor man, poor man, poor man. Like,
well, it's a
yes.
good time to also be like, hey, if you're gonna show up for your kids, it's not about you, it's about them.
Mm-hmm.
So, like, you got to do the work for you too in order to show up for them.
Yeah.
So,
And then
take time
you're
for it, prioritize it
Yeah, and then you're bound to have some serendipitous moments doing
too.
what they want. Yeah, too. Yeah, exactly. So, yeah.
Garbage moments. And when you're not in the household, for whatever reason, there isn't that much garbage time. And I think slowly but surely they lose sometimes connection with their kid. There's something weird going on. I'm curious, Logan, if you've got data on this, but you have a 1-year-old daughter, right? You're gonna be amazed when my 14-year-old boy had a Halloween party. And the boys are like cute, but they're dopes. They're boys. There's some 14-year-old girls who look like they could be the junior senator from Pennsylvania.
Dude.
They're 5'10". They're articulate. Hello, Mr. Galloway. How are you? What a lovely home. And the boys are like, I don't know. And biologically, girls mature faster. Their prefrontal cortex is 18 months ahead of a boy's. An 18-year-old girl or woman is competing against a 16 and a half year old when she's competing against an 18-year-old. And they're even finding that it's getting worse, that women or girls are starting to menstruate earlier and boys' testicles are descending later. So the gap in maturity, biological gap, they think might even be growing, and they don't know if it's pesticides. But when I meet my eighth graders' colleagues, there's a huge difference
Colleagues.
between the boys and the girls.
Yeah.
And one of Richard's suggestions is that we redshirt boys, that we hold them a year back. The boys start kindergarten at 6, whereas girls start at 5.
See, I kind of like that idea. I really struck a nerve with me because my mom had that choice, I think. Yeah, because my birthday was in June, so like she could start me early or start me late, and I think she started me late, so I was. Oh no, she did the opposite. Never mind. But what do you think, Fernando?
I think I saw a article or another video from somebody in Europe who was talking about the importance of seeing gendered elementary, um, because if we separate boys and girls, we can teach them the skills that that they need to be able to have before, I think, navigating a co-ed space. So it was like being able to let boys be boys, but also teach them nurturing skills, and to also teach girls leadership and independence and stuff, gender wise, you would say that boys would have. So that way, when they're integrated, they both have the skill set to respect all types of, you know, all types of
Hmm.
temperament.
Yeah,
So yeah, I don't have a problem with that. I think it's crucial that you get started at an early age to teach nurturing skills.
yeah. Um, my parents, that's kind of more what they grew up on. Like there was a boys and there was a girls
Not a
school.
big fan of tough love.
Yeah, I mean, well, they were taught by nuns mostly, well, in high school. So, and that was when the nuns could hit the kids.
Ouch.
The research in the UK shows that 70% of girls are ready to start school at age 5, but many fewer boys are capable of starting at that age in terms of readiness. And so if you were to hold boys back, then they might be on more equal playing field for those critical moments of 4 to 5, of 13 to 14, where the brains really develop at a different stage.
I want to talk about that sort of early education experience and how it can be adapted, but also just like if the environment of the classroom is right for boys. As we were talking about the point about fathers and listeners as well, I found this graph, which is also pretty shocking. And it goes into something you said, Scott. It basically shows that the absence of a father on a boy causes depressive symptoms, but the absence of a father on a young girl doesn't cause the same depressive symptoms, which means that the absence of a father for a boy drastically increases their chance of being depressed, whereas if for a girl it doesn't.
Build a website you love with Wix.
Inappropriate.
For your words,
There's a lot of other graphs that look like that in terms of women and young girls are just actually a lot more resilient in childhood. So if you are in foster care as a young woman, you have less negative outcomes than young men. And so there's this theory in parenting of, is your child an orchid or a dandelion? And so the orchid really needs very particular situations to grow. They need a certain amount of light. They need to be watered in a particular way, and they'll thrive in some situations and they will not thrive in others. Whereas a dandelion can really survive in many situations. And so women, young girls tend to be more dandelions in childhood.
Women are goddesses. Prove me wrong.
And so that's why when you have a boy and a girl both in negative situations, the boy is more negatively impacted.
Boys are just weaker. There's a crazy stat I read that two 15-year-olds, a boy and a girl, both sexually molested. And to be clear, they're equally heinous crimes. But the boy who's sexually molested is 6 to 10 times more likely to kill himself later in life. It ends up that boys are just less resilient.
Do you think there's somehow more of a stigma there? Like, I wonder why that's
Shame,
so
they
dramatic.
can't talk about it, aren't comfortable, feel there's a lack. I mean, I think just until a few years ago, the social incentives were to never speak about it.
Right.
I was on Lewis Howe's podcast, and he just openly said, I was sexually abused as a child. And it was so shocking for me to hear this big, handsome guy.
Yeah.
I don't think he would have said it 10 or 20 years ago. I think people would have assumed that it was his fault. It made him less of a man. So I think a lot of that has hopefully gotten better. But we just have to acknowledge boys mentally and emotionally are weaker than girls.
Lewis Howes didn't admit that until a couple of years ago.
Is that right?
So he's lived with that his whole life. And it wasn't until he was, I think, having dysfunction in his relationships and a few other things had happened that he decided he wanted to say it publicly for the first time, which again feeds into your point. We actually asked some of our audience to write in, and one of the people that wrote in was a teacher in a primary/preschool. And she said to me, she was an anonymous teacher in Germany. And she says, every year it seems like more and more children, always boys, have this new energy to destroy the classroom dynamics. These boys almost always have two things in common: a lack of boundaries at home and unsupervised, unlimited access to all kinds of content on the internet, e.g. porn. Their perception of what is okay and what is right becomes completely distorted. I have tried so many things, and every year it's becoming an even bigger challenge. Young boys in school. So one proposal is to delay education for boys, put them in education later. Is the classroom itself a problem? Like the sitting in school, listening to someone speak at you. Someone proposed to me on this podcast before that boys need more sort of practical play.
Nah, just sit there, shut the fuck up, and learn. All right, Jesus. Am I right? Am I right?
And the classroom isn't designed for that. I wasn't sure if that was...
Well, in single-sex boys' school, they end up with double the amount of recess time. And that is I equate boys to dogs. A happy dog is a tired dog. And if it's not tired, if it doesn't get to run, it's going to cause trouble. And I feel the same way about boys. So in these schools where they decide what's best for the boys, there's usually more exercise and more free play and more roughhousing. Co-ed schools. And
some are.
You're also seeing,
today? I think with boys,
get your rough housing.
There's just
I choose to not
by even acknowledging that men play a critical role in boys' lives a few years ago, that was seen as sexist. What you mean? What you're saying? Moms can't do this? And I can just tell you, there are certain moments when my partner needs me to weigh in. I don't know if it's the depth of my voice, my physical size, the way they relate to me, the fact that I'm not. You need dad, or that's what I have found, especially with boys. They need almost like that not physical intimidation, but it's almost like they begin tuning out their mom over time. I mean, they're incredibly close to their mother. They look to her for
Facts.
nurturing. When they really have a problem, I find they go to mom, but they will constantly test the boundaries, constantly.
Facts.
And I think a lot of single mothers, quite frankly, with boys, just can't keep a lid on that kid. They can't control the kid.
Hmm.
So, and I think you're finding at schools when there's no male kind of, I don't know, involvement or that I don't know what I'll call physical presence, and then you add on this dopa machine that they get used to squeezing a dopa bag 100 times a day as they need it, and then you take the
Talking
dopa
about their
bag away,
dick.
they're just more prone to emotional outbursts. I'm curious if you've done any research around why that emotional outburst more common among boys than girls.
I haven't done that research, but I am imagining that there's moms out there that are raising boys on their own, and they might be like, yes, it is hard, but what do I do?
Right.
And so for that boy who isn't taught by a lot of guys in school and isn't in the Boy Scouts, which doesn't exist anymore, or it doesn't have big brothers, big sisters, like what does that mom do?
So, but that you talk about Boy Scouts in America. There's Scouts for America, and
Right.
it can be boys and girls.
Right.
But Girl Scouts have their own single
Yeah.
sex, but Boy Scouts aren't allowed to have their own
Right.
single sex. So the question is, all right, what do you do? And I think that we need a societal zeitgeist that says immediately, if there's no longer a male involved, we have to get other men involved and acknowledge that that's not being sexist, that that's important that you get men involved. And I think so. So I came from a single parent household, raised by a single immigrant mother.
One thing they kind of just beat around the bushes. It's like you they the mother's like always there and always involved. So it's like you're always getting that. And I guess too, just you have a teacher who's gonna be motherly to you. So there is a some sort of female figure. But like I said, just we the men need to be more involved with their kids,
Well,
but also us men, like me and you, Fernando, need to
uh,
be make ourselves part of a bigger part of the community.
Can I speak as a single mom
Go
to a
ahead,
boy?
single mom to a boy.
So my son, he is 6 and he has ADHD and probably something else going on, but um I have ADHD, so I know a lot about it and what could be going on in his brain when something comes up or um what his emotional outbreaks could be stemming off of. So I'm a little bit more educated when it comes to the brain than some regular people that aren't around it a lot or around neurodivergent people. But as a mom, I have stopped and looked at my son and tried to figure it out, like what was going on. Um, why was he running away from me when he got in trouble? Why was it so hard for him to regulate himself when he was getting onto by his teacher or any person, really? Or why he was crying because of people across the room laughing and looking in his direction. Um,
mhm.
so I feel like it is a lot since I'm always around and I'm always doing something, but I also have him in other things to do that is appropriate, like the roughhousing. I put him in parkour because he does jump everywhere and he does want to climb on everything. So I put him in something appropriate to do that in. And I, um, my dad wanted a boy, so he raised me kind of rough. Um, so I'm, when it comes to roughhousing, I can do that for Kanan, my son.
Hmm.
But yeah, I mean, we're not all clueless on how to raise a neuro or just a boy.
Yeah, and that's what I mean. He kind of just takes jabs at women here from this point on. So I don't think we will watch much more of this guy. I think at this point, yeah, he does. Yeah, it's downhill from there on how he feels like it's the women's fault, that that we we hear, and then they're making it worse for us. So we'll just, I think, just finish up this section, and
Live and
go
die
to that other
secretary, light of
video
my life. As soon as my dad was
if
gone,
you
and then
all
he had
are
to
up
move
to
away
it.
for work, she got other men involved in my life.
Yeah.
And I had wonderful men involved in my life. I had a stockbroker. Neighbor down the hall came in with his
Privilege,
girlfriend and said, "Do you want to go horseback riding? You take me horseback riding."
privilege. The
I don't know
fuck.
if men would be comfortable doing that in today's age. So getting men involved in their lives, after school
We go
programs,
horseback riding.
Boy
Never
Scouts.
rode a
I had a lot
horse.
of wonderful men. I used to go camping, and there were
I want to ride a
men
horse.
everywhere involved in my life. And I worry that a lot of those institutions,
Yeah.
and also there's a reticence and a hesitance for men to get involved in a boy's life that isn't theirs, for fear they're going to be perceived as something's wrong with them.
I was thinking that. So if we have less men in the home raising the children, and then we go to school, and the stat says that 72% of teachers in middle school are women as well. There's no men at school either. It's no wonder that boys are struggling so severely at such a young, early age for so many reasons, because one would assume that they're being socialized in the same way as girls. I'm seeing, I've got a mother at home, don't have a father. I've got women at school, don't have male teachers. I mean, that's a controversial thing to say. I'm sure it used to be, but I think people are waking up a little bit now.
We need more male teachers. There's more female fighter pilots per capita than male kindergarten teachers.
Definitely. All right, but I want
I
to
don't.
go.
I don't understand what this guy's play is. Like all spaces are men's spaces.
Mhm.
It's like he's trying to advocate that like there's not enough of those. What are you talking about?
It's
All
certainly
spaces
clear
are
that
men's spaces. We need to teach boys
Yes.
that there are some spaces that they're not
And
invited to because they're not
oh,
about them.
yeah,
So
and that's kind of where the rest of the video went. It's just a diatribe on like, oh, like we just don't have access to any of it. It's like,
what are you
no.
talking about?
Yeah, I was like, we have all the access, we have all the privilege. Like we if either one of us like have the credentials and to go wanted to go be a teacher, we could go be a teacher somewhere. Like we don't really have to worry about the gender gap for us. Like, but to his point, we do need more male role models, and having the male role model does improve our young boys' chances. So this is from Fernando. Have you seen this, Fernando? I haven't.
This is really long, but
Yeah,
it's got a lot of different chapters.
yeah. I was gonna
So
say, could we watch like a couple of these chapters, or if you
chapter.
had a chapter that you wanted to cut to.
Oh no,
Okay.
I didn't get a chance to explore all of it,
All
but
right.
this channel seems to say some stuff that's usually pretty a little bit more balanced.
Okay.
So
Good.
the issues of boys and men haven't gone away in the last few years. If anything, they're getting even more attention, which is good when it's the right kind of attention. And what I've noticed is that perhaps as a result of videos like this and of the broader conversation is that the permission space to talk about the issues of boys and men seems to have broadened. Whereas it felt like a very difficult thing to talk about, it was controversial, you were treading on eggshells all the time. Now it feels a little bit more straightforward. That doesn't mean that it isn't still a difficult conversation. I think that a conversation about the challenges of boys and men should be difficult. I think that if you don't find it an uncomfortable conversation, given some of the challenges that we still have to deal with for women and girls, then maybe you shouldn't be in that conversation. So although it's still a difficult conversation, but it's a possible conversation. And I'm really pleased to see many more people now being willing to say, okay, we should address this issue. I think the key to that is to make sure that it's not seen as zero sum. As soon as people are reassured that looking at the challenges of boys and men, trying to fix those problems is not at the expense of continuing to do work for women and girls. So everyone sort of starts to breathe more easily. Once you get past the or, it's women or men, and you get into the and, that we have to rise together, then that's a big unlock. And what I've really noticed is that once you make that move, once you've unlocked the conversation, everybody wants to talk about it.
Damn it, why is the Brit making more sense to that fucking American?
It's just everybody has sons they're worried about, husbands they're worried about, brothers they're interested in. If you set the stage in the right way, then everybody wants to talk about this issue. I'm Richard Reeves. I'm president of the American Institute for Boys and Men. I'm also the author of the book, Of Boys and Men, Why the Modern Male is Struggling, Why That Matters, and What to Do About it.
Chapter 1. The Abandonment of Men.
It's obviously true, as we look around, that many men and boys do feel somewhat lost. They don't quite know their place in society. They don't quite understand how they're supposed to be. They very often know how they're not supposed to be. And so this sense of what's my place in the world? Why am I needed? What's my role going to be going forward? That's a very real question that many men and boys are genuinely struggling with. That's not a confected online idea. That's a real challenge, and it's a real question that men have to ask themselves today in a way that they didn't a few decades ago. One barrier to talking about boys and men is this fear that it's going to be zero sum, that it takes away from the correct attention we pay to women and girls. But another problem is that as soon as you start to say, well, boys are a bit more like this, girls are a bit more like that, or men are a bit more like this, women are a bit more like that, people will immediately say, well, I know a woman that's not like that, or a man that's not like that. And I've come to believe that a huge problem with this whole debate is the unwillingness or inability to imagine overlapping distributions. To say that there can be a difference on average between males and females on whatever we're talking about. But that doesn't mean that all women are like all women and all men are like all men. So the analogy is perhaps with height. If you think about the statement that men are taller than women, very few people would interpret that to mean all men are taller than all women, right? But what it does mean is that about 1 in 7 men are over 6 foot compared to 1 in 100 women. And the same at the bottom, below about 5'2". So there's a big overlap in the distributions of height between men and women. And very few people would say that the statement men are taller than women is disproven by the fact that you're walking along the street and you see a woman that's 6'3" or a man that's 5'2", right? We all know what we mean, that it's on average. And so when we get into questions around differences in learning style or risk-taking, risk of addiction, competitiveness, emotional vocabulary, etc., and if you say that there are these differences between males and females which might matter, we shouldn't immediately assume that we're stereotyping every man and woman into that role. And I get why people are worried about it, because let me give you a personal example. My son is a 5th grade teacher and my sister-in-law is an engineer. So even if it's true that on average, some of the preferences that men and women will have might lead them overall to have more men interested in engineering and more women interested in being elementary school teachers, that doesn't mean there's anything wrong with my son or my sister-in-law. There are always going to be people on the other end of the distribution. But it does mean that we should respect and acknowledge where there are these differences on average between the two, if it matters. So, for example, the greater risk-taking that we see among men, especially young men, that really does matter. Understanding that is important for all kinds of things, including public health and public safety. One of the things I've noticed is that people are quite quick to blame if young men are struggling, if they're not in the labor market. There's the eye roll, and there's the, well, if they could just get off the sofa and stop smoking so much weed and playing video games all day, maybe they'd make something of themselves. It's interesting that instinct to blame is really not as common for other groups as it is
so they can make
for young
money
men.
off of that.
And there are some challenges there for sure, but I'm pretty convinced that it's not that young men are making this kind of deliberate choice to be kind of video gaming. So teen boys are like 3 times as likely roughly as teen girls to be playing video games. I've raised 3 sons, all in their 20s now, and actually it can be quite socially connecting in the right way if it amplifies and adds to in real life relationships. Should we go to the men in political affiliation? So I am not convinced at all that this is a choice on the part of young men which could be described as just kind of selfish or weak, which is sometimes this sense. You just get this sense of frustration among people. They need to pull themselves up by their bootstraps type thing. You know, man up, get off the sofa. And of course, it's true that people should take responsibility. Of course, like for young voters to vote for the more conservative party. And so that caught a lot of people by surprise. It shouldn't have done. It was well signaled in the polls running up to the election. It's made a lot of people realize that there are a lot of young men out there who are up for grabs. And I mean that not just in the political sense of like their votes are up for grabs, and I think could easily be up for grabs in both directions, frankly. But what I mean is that up for grabs more culturally. There's this kind of general sense of a lot of young men feeling a bit caught in a pinball machine almost. Like being told you're too masculine on Tuesdays and that you're not masculine enough on Wednesdays, and that you're supposed to say this if you listen to one podcaster and say that if you listen to somebody else. And just this sense of confusion that I think a lot of young men feel, and to some extent rejection. I don't think it's a coincidence that it's the youngest of the young men who are most likely to move towards the Republicans in the last election, because they are the men who grew up in the era since 2016. 2016 is a notable year for many reasons, but one thing it's notable for is for the invention and popularization of the term toxic masculinity. And that's been a frame through which the gender debate has actually been played out ever since then. But like if you were 10 in 2016 when toxic masculinity was born, you were voting in 2024. And so there's a whole group of young men who I think have been through quite a turbulent time in terms of this debate about gender. And a lot of that debate was necessary and good. For example, I'm a huge supporter of the Me Too movement. But
toxic masculinity is a real thing. Definitely. I never had a problem with those words, but I guess it has had a trickle down effect on young men and boys, and they have lost their it's made them feel like, oh, so it's not okay to be a man, it's not okay to be a boy, and that's turned them into incels and have made them go far right with their political views.
I mean, I kind of feel like we got to teach the difference between discomfort and being, I think, feeling discomfort and feeling targeted. Like those are two different things.
Yes.
You know what I mean?
Oh, that's so good. Yeah. It's like, okay, like you're just feeling uncomfortable right now because this is new, or you're having to own up to something you've done or said, and
They're not being like repressed.
yeah, it's not
You know what I mean?
repression. Yeah, it's not repression. No. But these young men and boys are feeling that way. So, we gotta find a way to communicate.
Don't think they've done a good enough job of calling men in as well as calling them out. And that has become an issue, particularly on the center left.
Calling them in.
I think that on the progressive side of the political spectrum, it was very difficult until recently for many people to accept that men might have problems because they were convinced that men were the problem. And if you can't get past that idea that men are the problem, then it's difficult to accept that they have problems to address. One of the things that really worries me is the way in which young men and young women have been increasingly persuaded that their problems are the fault of the other side. So on the right, there's a strong tendency, I think, to say to young men, yeah, you're struggling, which is true. And you know why? It's because of all those women taking jobs, taking positions, feminism's gone too far, etc. And almost blame women or the rise of women for the problems of men, which is very reactionary.
Or immigrants.
But I would say it's true the other way around too. I think that many people on the political left have said to young women, sure, you're struggling, you're not going to earn as much, and the labour market, it doesn't work as well for you, and you quite rightly may have some fears for your own prospects. And you know why? Because of those men. Because of patriarchy, because of toxic masculinity. And so, weirdly, both sides have managed to politicize young men and young women almost against each other, just at a moment in history where you'd want young people to be arm in arm against the structural problems that they're facing in the economy. I'm not saying it's a conspiracy, but if it was a conspiracy, what you would do is you'd find a way to persuade young men and young women that what was happening was the fault of the other side of the gender divide rather than the fault of the economy or our healthcare system or the labor market, right? And so I think in different ways, the politics of gender have ended up becoming really way too personal and not structural enough. If we're not careful, these conversations can shut the conversation down with boys and young men rather than opening it up. And so when we're talking about online influencers, we're talking about some of the kind of more reactionary figures online, sometimes parents sort of react to discovering that their son, for example, is consuming video content from somebody like Andrew Tate, pretty well-known misogynist influencer. It's almost like they're watching hardcore porn. You know, they sort of, they slam the laptop with the...
If your kid is watching Andrew Tate, take away the internet. Don't buy him a book. Don't let him go down that rabbit hole.
Same kind of moral fervor as if they caught them looking at some pretty kind of horrible porn. And that's the wrong response. It's a natural response, but it's the wrong response.
No, I don't like this guy.
Instead, you've got to have curiosity. You've got to figure out, like, well, why are you interested in this?
No, fuck that. Shut it down right away.
Shouldn't be curious?
No, curious to a man who hates women and treats them like property? What? No. That's where the curiosity stops. It's like, oh, okay, you're interested in Andrew Tate. Do you know what he's about? He's about women being property and nothing more than that, and male supremacy. Okay, you hear that? That's terrible. You don't want that. We're not about that. Pooh, done.
I also think that it's hard to be able to police those spaces. Like, I think you need to have a really good open communication with your kids to be able to talk about those things. You know what I mean? Like, that's part of parenting.
I did tell, like, my friend Katie, her son's getting to that age, and he's like on Discord and plays video games online. I'm like, yeah, make sure you're checking that shit out. Like, it's getting real wild out there. You can definitely go down the wrong rabbit hole, and all of a sudden, yeah, you think you're Andrew Tate.
But exploration is, you know what I mean?
What?
I think exploration is so important. Like, you can come across those things, but I think if you have a good relationship, like, you get to explore that with your kids to help them navigate their choices.
Honestly, yeah. If you're a good parent and you're involved, they never get to Andrew Tate. Like, I didn't get to Andrew Tate before I got to like Jordan Peterson before I got to Andrew Tate. And Jordan Peterson had some good things, just in general on how to improve your mental health and stuff, but he was still a fucking jackass. Um, and I realized he was a jackass when I found out about Andrew Tate, and I was like, oh, well, this guy has a lot of money, he's really buff, really successful. Maybe I should, do what he's doing. But then again, I was already on the negative from Jordan, and then I heard some of the misogynist shit coming out of Andrew's mouth. I was like, yeah, no, this isn't about me. I'm gonna have to find my own path, find my own way. I can't do it how these guys are saying. Can't follow what these guys are saying because it was red pill.
Because one of the things that the most successful reactionary online figures say is nobody will want you to talk about watching my stuff or listening to my stuff. If you even mention to somebody that you're interested in this, watch how they react. Watch how your mum reacts, watch how your school reacts, and see how they react. They set it as a test. And then, so sure enough, if you raise this issue, you say to your mum that you've been consuming some of this content or you're doubting some of what you've been taught, and if the reaction is immediately like, how dare you?
Oh shit! Damn, maybe I'm wrong.
You've just proved the point that the reactionary was making. And this is one of those moments where it's hard, but I'm speaking here as a parent as much as a policy wonk, is that you take some deep breaths, you try to be open-minded,
Oh
you
shit!
don't in any way compromise your own values,
Where's
and
this
you have some curiosity, and you try to
Where's
become
this from?
an ally and a partner
You can pause
to
it and
your
I'll tell
son
you.
as they navigate this difficult.
What?
You have to have those hard conversations with your kids because they
But
are
how
at
do
the end of
you
the day they are
control?
their own person.
How do you control that knee jerk reaction? I'm like, no, don't do that, and go to your room.
Because you're kind of just like almost like do what I say, turn it off, it's no good. But you want to sit and explain to why it's no good. Um, like Kanan had heard something that my sisters had said, and I had to explain to him why I don't agree with what they said and how they do things. But um, yeah, it's just a hard conversation that you have to have. At the end of the day, they are their own. They will be their own person, but it's up to you to guide them in the right direction.
Oh, he said something, and you told me before, like I need to breathe
Yeah.
through my emotions, and that's something I think a lot of men, well, everybody in general, is just before you really overreact, go ahead, take some breaths. And honestly, for me, I'm like, if I can take like 5 breaths and I still feel angry, I think maybe it's worth being angry, and I can use those breaths to scream louder. But no, just kidding, just kidding, just kidding.
Difficult online world and offline world. And I worry sometimes that the uninformed, frankly, reaction that many middle-aged policymakers are having to some of these issues online, they look out of touch and they sound out of touch, but it also has this really chilling effect on an open conversation about what's really going on. And that then just drives these boys and young men even further into the recesses of what's online. The question is, who's having an honest and good faith conversation about this? And I don't think that forcing boys and girls to kind of watch a fictional drama in schools, which is by definition fictional and
Why
not true
not?
to life in
Make
many
him watch
ways,
Degrassi.
is going to open up that conversation. At least it won't open it up for most boys. So I worry that
I
it'll actually
disagree.
backfire and be unhelpful.
I
There's a big
disagree.
difference between a show like Adolescence becoming a big Netflix hit for people watching it and governments, as the UK government has, proposing showing that in every secondary school. Then it's a matter of policy, and therefore I think it becomes an issue that we should pay more attention to. And there's a real danger that you take something that's fictional and assume.
Why don't we want them watching Degrassi? I feel like I learned how to navigate certain situations from the shows I watched. I've been watching a lot of shorts videos made off of Roseanne, actually. Do you remember? I know you remember Roseanne, Fernando.
Yeah, I was going to say, um, yeah, no, I would definitely remember Roseanne. But like, yeah, I just think what this guy's saying is like, you got to be able to get yourself together to have these hard conversations. And it feels so adult. Like, you got to do it yourself first before you can have these hard conversations. Because if not, like, the blind's leading the.
Okay, yeah, yeah, but I still think you should be able to use some sort of instead of this conversation happening like in the wild or out in a public area or in your daily life or whatever, like if you're
I
watching
don't
a
know.
show and
I,
like
I think the element of safety is now at play. Like some people don't ask. Some people don't want to know what you feel. You know what I mean? You don't know who's receiving to that. And in today's day and age, I don't know. It's a little like my opinion doesn't really matter about that. You know?
yes, I don't know, I'm thinking of like Seventh Heaven and Roseanne and what was another one that I always felt? Boy Meets World.
Mm.
Like those were my kind of like guiding lights. Oh, and Home
I was gonna.
Improvement. Yeah.
This guy just brought up that is it adolescence? Have you
Yeah. I
had a
don't.
chance to see that?
No, I've never seen that. Kirsten, have you?
It,
What is it called?
adolescence.
No, I haven't seen it.
It's on Netflix. You
So
said.
and
Mm-hmm.
it just won an Emmy. Like a lot of the people on that show won like several Emmys. Um, Highly recommend it. Really, really great, and it talks a lot about some of this toxic masculinity stuff that this guy's bringing up, and it's really wild. I think, yeah, definitely, highly recommend.
But would you not suggest it as a tool to help teach your young young boy how to deal with different communities or how to interact with community better?
I don't know because I'm not sure that I would have them be engaged so much in social media. I think I would have them actually doing the activity.
Mm,
That doesn't leave you a lot of time to like navigate that. You know what I mean?
okay.
So it's kind of like actions speak louder than words. Like
Okay, okay. I get what you mean. I get what
let's actually do the activity instead of needing to document it or celebrate it. Like let's just do it.
you mean.
And so I think that provides some of the self-esteem that's necessary to just be like, yeah, I can do hard things and I can participate and I can be part of something. I just, I can't just wish it. I have to do it.
Gotcha.
And that can be really challenging.
No, it makes sense.
Assume that it's more true to life than it really is. It can create a moral panic. It can make many parents fear that they're kind of inadvertently raising a monster, which is almost certainly not true. So the good news about something like a show like Adolescence is that it draws attention to some of the kind of risks online, some of the more reactionary figures online. It's good. It's good. Parents should be thoughtful about that. But the downside is that it can run into this common problem we have when we're discussing the issues of boys and men, which is that they're just, a couple of clicks away from becoming kind of an incel, violent criminal. And that's just not true.
Are you
And
sure?
the presumption that that might be about to happen can actually shut the conversation down. I think the idea that you can somehow just invent like a progressive version of Andrew Tate or somebody and you just throw them online, like add water and here's this new, suddenly globally famous alternative. That's not how online influence works.
Hassan
It grows
Piker.
organically, it grows through algorithms, it grows through clicks.
Hassan
And so I think it's
Piker.
just unrealistic to think you can somehow just create, these things don't get created that way. So first of all, it's very naive, I think. But the bigger issue for me is that the best antidote to an unserious online male role model, I'm using that term advisedly, is an in real life, flesh and blood, actual man in the lives of boys. The way to beat the online version of it is by having male teachers, male coaches, fathers, uncles, neighbors, etc., just being a living and breathing version of what it means to be a man. I continue to believe that in the long run, boys, young men, will believe their eyes more than their ears. And so if there isn't enough of a sense of what does it mean to be a man in my community, in my home, in my school, etc., if there's a lack of real life men showing what it means to be a man rather than telling you how to be a man, then I think that creates a vacuum which then gets filled by online figures. I honestly believe that the way to beat the online world is offline, is in real life.
Ah, look at
That
you,
doesn't mean we
Fernando.
shouldn't be online. It doesn't mean we shouldn't, of course, support the people who are. And there are lots of.
Damn it. Man, why do I have to listen to y'all? Or maybe I should listen to y'all a little bit more.
People in the
Uh,
so-called manosphere, a term that I think is probably now redundant because I don't know who's included in it anymore. But there are lots of guys online, lots doing fitness stuff, doing kind of motivational stuff. I really love, for example, Arnold Schwarzenegger's Pump Club. I don't know if you've seen any of that, but what's great about that is that, like, and I probably
Here in Austin, there is like running clubs, and oh, I saw this thing. It was kind of like painting at a patio bar.
Mhm.
There's climbing. There's two climbing places that you can join. A lot of there's hiking stuff in Phoenix.
I'm seeing a lot
Um,
of D&D clubs. I'm seeing a lot of
D&D,
board game clubs.
Magic the Gathering is pretty huge out here. There's lots in Phoenix as well. There is stuff available, but yeah, like he has a point. It's like you have to get offline. You have to get away
Mm-hmm.
from your PC, your console, your phone. You have to be
Touch
was that
touch grass. You gotta go
touch
touch grass.
gotta go touch grass.
Yes.
Yeah. If you have a dog, take him to the dog park. That's good stuff too. So definitely, you're able to beat the narrative.
I sympathize with this. Like somebody will show a video of themselves doing their first push-up, right? And they manage to do like one or two push-ups. And then Arnold himself will come on and say, "That's great, go for it," etc. It's incredibly warm and it's like welcoming, and so there's a lot of really great stuff happening around this stuff online. But in the long run, you can beat an Andrew Tate video with a classroom exercise or a hike up the mountain with your scout group any
Mm-hmm.
day of the week. If there's a young man and he kind of watches some stuff online and it drifts into kind of misogynist stuff or whatever, then first of all, which man is he going to talk to about that, right? Maybe the father. Certainly, it's something I spoke to my sons about. But like, who are they going to talk to about that? Who are they going to test those ideas on? Probably a man. So, is there a man in their lives they can test that on? But also, then they're going to look at the guys and they're going to say, does my teacher or my scout leader or my uncle act like Andrew Tate? No. Is he a good guy? Yes. Would I rather be more like him? Well, hopefully the answer is yes. Well, there is a big question. Should we have any single sex space? Should we have male only spaces or female only spaces? Maybe we should just get rid of them altogether. I think as a general point, we don't want them in the workplace as places where power and favors are traded, right? There's a reasonable suspicion of what was called the old boys club, and the idea that kind of men were congregating in male spaces and that power and influence were being shared in those spaces. We've quite rightly tried to turn against that. But that's very different to the Boy Scouts and the Girl Scouts. It's very different to youth organizations. And I think it's a mistake to move from the correct claim that we shouldn't have an old boys club to saying that we shouldn't have Boy Scouts or we shouldn't have single sex classes or even single sex sports. For both boys and girls, I'm quite angry at the Scouts for giving up Boy Scouts. Boy Scouts of America no longer exists. It's now called Scouting for America, and girls are
This is
allowed
stupid.
in.
This is stupid. Why did he get stupid all of a sudden? What the fuck?
What? That he's talking about scouts?
Yeah.
Well, that's just a fact. So,
Yeah, okay, but he's all sad about it. I think it's a great thing. But is he saying this is I guess I don't know. There's some parts
well,
of this where I'm just like, "Yo, are you serious, little boy? Like stop your fucking crying and go make friends. But that's just my
Well,
mother and me. So
no,
what?
I was gonna say like um, the problem is like in Boy Scouts, there's a thing. So it's called the Eagle Scout Award, and
Mhm.
so if you get that, like it's seemingly kind of a big deal. Like if you were to join the military, you start off with benefits. Like people recognize that as like, oh wow, you did something really big. So the thing is like that would only be for boys. The Girl Scouts have something really similar, but it was never recognized, and
Mhm.
public didn't ever recognize it, and institutions didn't recognize it, and that really sucks because what we're saying is the stuff that boys get is worthy of recognition to a point where they get I don't know like special recognition. So they changed it to allow females to get the same award. So
Mhm.
I mean,
No, I think it's good, but on from what I'm getting from this guy is like it's a and from the other guy earlier is that it is important for boys to have some sort of all boy space. And I guess me and you, Fernando, were products of that because I played sports. You had the Boy
right.
Scouts.
Well, there's
Um,
social skills, right? Or like
yeah,
soft
okay,
skills.
yeah. So,
You need to have some exposure in a safe way to be able to work on those things.
okay, yeah. Safe exposure. So, okay. So you can work out your social skills. All right, see. All right, it makes a little bit of sense now.
Girl Scouts remains Girl Scouts and single sex. And the reason I'm angry about that is because I've been a scout leader, I was a scout, etc. Is I think for pretty progressive reasons, which is that single sex spaces, when done well, they don't amplify the more stereotypically male or female characteristics. They help to balance them out. And so in Girl Scouts, for example, there's a huge emphasis on things like leadership and going into STEM, taking more assertive positions, etc. So they're kind of working. Girl Scouts don't spend a huge amount of time with the girls talking about the need to be more caring or more nurturing or to open up emotionally to each other or be there for each other. They spend a lot more time on things like being more competitive, being more aggressive, being more assertive, right? And I think as a result of that, Girl Scouts has done a really good job of actually kind of helping girls to kind of balance out some of those perhaps more naturally occurring tendencies with others. In Boy Scouts, this is certainly my experience as a scout leader, you don't have to typically work very hard with boys to make them more competitive. Boys will turn throwing trash into a trash can into a competition. You don't generally have to kind of this idea of being more aggressive because that's a little bit more on average baked in. But what you do instead is you work on teamwork. You work on how to care for the other people in your patrol. You learn how to love each other and to serve each other.
Yeah,
And so you
you can
balance
do
out
that with
so that hopefully as a result
the
of those
Girl
single sex
Scouts too.
spaces, you actually end up with both men and women who are somewhat more fully filled out. There's like a stereotype of like boys' spaces will make boys more boyish. But actually, I think the opposite's true. I think that boys' spaces, whether it's teams or scouts, actually help boys learn to love, learn to care, learn to be of service, think about other people. And the same with like girls' spaces done well, they don't make girls girlier. They actually help them to kind of develop other skills. And so done properly and in the right balance, I actually think that single sex spaces make a lot of sense. I certainly don't think we want to end up with a world where we think that it is necessary or good to have single sex spaces only for girls. And we get rid of all of the ones that existed for boys. It's pretty clear to most people that when boys are around girls, the presence of the girls affects how the boys behave, including towards each other, and vice versa. It's one of the strong arguments that's been made, for example, for kind of single-sex girls' schools, is to get girls away from some of the kind of presence of boys and what that means. In practice, in an all-boys space, what it allows you to do is work more on skills around emotion, sharing, caring, etc. You may not use that language, particularly if it's like a team sport or something. It'll be more around, maybe use more masculine language, right? The other fellow first or the team first or whatever. But what you're really learning about is love and care and nurturing. Just think some of that's easier to do if you're not feeling the gaze of your female peers, and vice versa too. And so if you're trying to kind of incubate spaces where you can really kind of develop full human beings, there is something to be said for at least some spaces where you're doing that in a single sex environment. The share of boys playing sports is going down, and that's for all kinds of reasons, but a big problem there is the loss of team sports. I think team sports for boys is a place and a space within which they kind of learn to think about each other, to be part of a bigger whole. They learn to love.
Yeah, and I think schools and stuff need to kind of adapt to the times and make more available electronic sports, um, for to build teams and community. But it's kids should be playing some sort of sport together.
Love each other. There's a real solidarity and camaraderie in team sports that I think is very good for girls and boys, but looks especially good for boys. But that's a safe space within which they learn a lot of the skills, including those social skills, those teamwork skills, those caring skills that they're going to need to be good fathers, to be good husbands, and to be good workers. I also think that coaches are mental health professionals in disguise. They're sitting shoulder to shoulder on a bench or in a group. They're working with boys.
You're missing your calling. You're supposed to be coaching football, Fernando.
Yeah, I don't know. That's kind of a big leap right there. No, I think I can push back or make a good argument that sometimes unqualified people are coaches and cause damage and more hurt. And by the way, I just want everything he's saying is very heteronormative. Like he's somehow making a lot of judgments about these spaces that I think we can also normalize just being able to like nurture as a human thing versus as an exclusively inherent like trait. I know a lot of nurturing little boys. The thing is they get bullied. So like we got to address those elements. But
Yeah,
I mean, I'm just saying red flag on what he said there.
definitely. Let's see what else he has to say.
Or with young men, and they're very often noticing that they're struggling, and they can, in a very, very safe way, in a non-threatening way, they can open up a conversation with them. And there's a reason, I think, why so many men will say that a coach played a hugely important part in their role, especially if they didn't have a strong relationship with their father. It's a trope at this point to say that coaches are father figures, but it's also a truth that for many boys, they absolutely do play that role for men. I've seen this. I have this image in my mind of a coach sitting next to a young man, a boy or a young man. And they're just sitting like this, shoulder to shoulder. And the coach is saying, how are you? You seem a little bit off today. Everything okay? How's stuff at home? How are things with your mom? Did you sort that thing out right? And they're probably watching the game a bit too. And what's really interesting about that is it's beautiful, but it's also their shoulder to shoulder. And one of the things we know is that men communicate more comfortably with each other shoulder to shoulder, as opposed to face to face. When men are face to face with each other, that's quite a threatening position. Men, now if I tell you this, you won't be able to unsee it. Where every time you go to a social event, look at the way that the men are standing in relation to each other. They're always slightly catty corner with each other. They're always at an angle because being face to face is a threat posture.
Important.
It also means that if you want to communicate with young men, go fishing, go for a drive, go for a hike. A lot of psychologists now will do the walk and talk therapy. Do not sit them down and stare them in the face. That is not a very comfortable way for most men to communicate with each other. They are going to communicate much more comfortably with each other when they're doing something else, when they are shoulder to shoulder.
All right, I think that's a good point to end on. Thank you, Fernando, for the guest speaker position. I'm gonna clip this up and put it on YouTube so we can
You are.
hopefully. Yes, I'm serious. This is see, and I think a big thing, the overall message that I got from this is like men need a community, or they need the tools. Young boys need the tools to be able to find a community, and us men who are successful at building and having communities, it's uh we need to step up and um, help them uh, find and build communities of their own. So
All
this
right.
that my YouTube video is going to hopefully help
It
them.
was fun sharing, and it was fun exploring all these little themes.
Yeah. Next time we do a watch party, we can do we'll do a double date with Caesar, and we'll maybe we can finish watching K-pop Demon Slayer.
Oh, I think you should finish that before we see each other again. Again, your sleep might be better.
Yeah.
So,
Okay.
so
But
yeah,
yeah, we should
this
do
is what
something
this
like that. All right. Good night, y'all.
Good night.
Bye.
Bye.